Good evening to you. The rail union RMT has vowed to continue its fight with Southern Trains until the bitter end. It made the pledge as hundreds demonstrated at Westminster against changes to the role of the Guard. Meanwhile, one commuter has won the legal right to challenge Southern for compensation for poor services. Here's our transport correspondent, Mike Pearce.
Southern Rail, Southern Fail, Southern Rail.
A national protest in support of the Southern Guards. For months they've been striking at the centre of a bitter row over changes that will mean drivers closing train doors. This week we'll see more strikes on Friday and Saturday. Well, the RMT said this afternoon this will be a fight to the bitter end. Meanwhile, those strikes at the weekend, Friday and Saturday, will of course seriously affect tens of thousands of people going to the Lewis bonfire event on Saturday, a move that's defended tonight by the RMT.
Whatever we do, we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. We're taking industrial action to try and get a resolution to the dispute.
But it can't be right to hurt ordinary people going to a fireworks display.
Well, I mean, anyway, we've put a whole host of suggestions to the government and to Southern to try and resolve this position.
As pensioners, we say we need the Guards because it's going to protect our safety when we have to use the rail system.
As many trains as today have a second person on board, we'll have them in future. So this is certainly not about cutting jobs, and it's not about cutting corners. This is about giving customers much better service.
Meanwhile, one commuter has won a court victory that could lead to extra compensation for those affected by the recent chaos. Sergi Christo says he was forced to move from Surrey to London after trains became so busy he couldn't get on them. As we found earlier in the year, these conditions are suffered on a daily basis. Mr. Christo has now won the right for a case to claim extra compensation. He says the company have failed under the Supply of Goods and Services Act. He's demanding £500 and the hearing will be held in the new year.
The trains were sent at less frequent intervals and fewer carriages, so it came to the point when it was actually impossible to board. I just couldn't get in.
So now you're going to court to try and get this compensation. Why is that important for you and what do you think it could mean to other commuters?
It may open floodgates to some cases when people are not being compensated under the current regime. I feel honoured in a way that my small claim, my small case seems to represent such a huge number of people. And if I'm successful, then it won't be just my victory, but everybody else's.
Mike Pearce, ITV News, Westminster.
Tens of thousands of rail passengers are facing chaos tonight on the Brighton line. There have been virtually no services all evening. An hourly shuttle between Haywards Heath and Brighton is now in place. The problem was caused by a track fire and broken rail. Meanwhile, a campaign's been launched at London's Waterloo station to encourage rail users to be extra vigilant in reporting any unusual items or activity. The government, police and the rail industry initiative emphasises the vital role the public can play in keeping everyone safe.
This is not in relation to a specific threat, but of course the United Kingdom's been within a severe threat environment since November 2014. However, we have to keep this level of awareness at the forefront of our travelling public and mobilise their eyes and ears, hearts and minds to ensure the safety of our users.
In other news, police say files remain open in the case of missing teenager Damien Nettles, who vanished on the Isle of Wight 20 years ago this week. The 16-year-old was last seen in Cowes. The final sighting was on CCTV in the High Street. His family have made regular appeals for information. A man involved in a 4-hour standoff with police in Portsmouth has admitted 8 charges of criminal damage and assault. Ben McCready, who's 26, hurled roof tiles from the top of a row of terraced houses in Stamford at the weekend. He'll be sentenced later this month. The controversial patient transport service Co-Performer has lost its contract. The company took over non-emergency hospital transport in Sussex in April, but has been at the centre of complaints and criticism. Andy Dickinson has more.
Within days it had been labelled a disaster. Co-Performer, the first private company to be handed control of non-emergency patient transport in Sussex. Dialysis patient Sarah Worley speaking to us in June after she missed 3 out of 4 treatments when her ambulances failed to arrive.
I think somebody's going to die. It's just been horrific. There has been no organisation whatsoever. They've just let patients, they've just left them hanging.
Now, after 7 months of misery, the controversial company is to be stripped of its contract. All of Sussex Care commissioning groups agreeing to let it go.
We apologise for the difficulties that patients and staff have found themselves in. The service remains very fragile. In addition to that, co-performer have contacted the CCGs and informed us that whilst the service has improved, it's now uneconomic for them, and we have agreed that we will work through an exit process with co-performer on this contract.
It's extremely good news. It's been a very, very long campaign, and we've known from day one that eventually the CCGs and everybody else involved would get to this decision.
Since April, patients, including some with cancer, have faced delays, missed appointments and even operations. The service was also plagued with financial problems, relying on contractors who complained they weren't being paid. Protests were followed by a debate in Parliament.
The service has improved, but what's been absolutely clear is this model does not work. There are too many different parts to it. When one bit fails, the whole thing fails.
The current provider in Hampshire and Oxfordshire, the South Central Ambulance Service, will now take over, bringing patients back into NHS hands and using many of co-performers' drivers. Unlike co-performers' takeover, however, this will be a phased transition, lasting no more than 6 months, but a transition perhaps that for many can't come soon enough. Andy Dickinson, ITV News, Lewis.
New flights from Bournemouth to Poland have been announced by Ryanair. The twice-weekly service to Krakow is part of the new winter schedule. It also includes new services to Faro, Gran Canaria and Malta. Ryanair has been operating from Bournemouth for more than 20 years. Finally, a family of high flyers have made the record books after kite surfing around the Isle of Wight. The Bridge family all compete internationally and are campaigning for the sport to feature in the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. Andrea Bishop has more.
When your mum can do this, it's clear she's pretty unique. Steph Bridge taught herself to kite surf at 30 and is now one of the top 3 women in the world. She juggles that with training her 3 sons, who are also high flyers.
My role is not only mum, but it's also really coach, I guess. We've always been a really close family, so in fact it's quite normal that for me that they were going to get into water sports, because they really pretty much sailed before they could walk. We can all do it as a family, and we all really get on well and share experiences and share opportunities.
And this summer, one of those family times was smashing 3 world records racing around the Isle of Wight.
I'm kind of trying to keep up with the boys, and they're really, really putting the pedal down. And in fact, they actually went off into the distance quite a long way. So I was like, oh, I wonder if which one's going to make it first. And I kind of thought that Ollie would have made it first, but he would have made it had he not hit a sandbank. And then his brother Guy just sort of creamed on past him and beat him. So it's quite a good story.
Beaten by just seconds, but it's all good. The only eye in Team Bridge is the one in family.
I guess there's a lot of competition between us and sort of drives us to push each other more.
You learn off other members of the family, so if you see them doing something else, you doing their trick.
Because we all do it together, it makes us closer as a family too.
A decision on whether kite surfing will be included in the 2020 Olympics is expected in the new year. And if it's a go, I've no doubt Team Bridges will be flying the flag, or should I say kite, for Team GB. Andrea Bishop, ITV News.
Lovely weather for kite surfing or not? Let's find out. Here's the forecast. Amanda Houston.
From sleet to the slopes, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Hello and a very good evening to you. Well, in recent days we have seen lots of low cloud, mist and murk across the region. However, it is a different story as we go through the next few days. We'll certainly be seeing more in the way of sunshine, but it's going to be feeling much colder out there. Now, for the rest of tonight, still got a bit of cloud hanging on in the south for a time. And you can see overnight it's pushed out of the way. Clear skies will be developing, and with those light winds, that is going to allow temperatures to plummet. Just look how cold it is tonight. Temperatures down to around 3 degrees in many areas, low rurally, could get even colder than that. So we are expecting some frost in places. So of course, tomorrow morning we'll get off to a very chilly start to the day first thing, but there will be some stunning autumnal sunshine right across the board. Now, as the day goes on, the cloud will bubble up at times, but it will be staying dry out there, bright or sunny spells, but the winds coming in from the north, which means disappointing temperatures this time. We're only looking at highs anywhere between 9 and 11 degrees. That's 52 in Fahrenheit. Now, on Thursday, for many of us, not a bad start today, but the cloud will be coming later on and things set to turn unsettled from Friday onwards. Bye-bye.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
That's it for now. We are back during Good Morning Britain from 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, but from the late team for now, it's good night. Sleep well. Join us again soon. From all of us, bye-bye.